So what I'm thinking, like I know a big thing for us and what makes Elevate special. In fact, I asked Greg Glassman last week. I went to his Broken Science little mini conference, and a lot of it was like way over my head. He is really smart and technical when it comes to like science and stuff like that. Was not my forte in school whatsoever. Um, but I had asked a question about, what his thoughts were on the rise that we've seen since the pandemic in alcohol being a primary drug of choice, our demographic going from 48% in 2019 to now almost 80% of our clients presenting with alcohol as their drug of choice. And I think the obvious answers were, well, the pandemic and everybody was sort of sheltered in place, and also alcohol was deemed essential at the time. So we know that all played a big part of it, but what he brought up as what he thought like the primary thing was the lack of community. It was people being sort of segregated from one another and being by themselves, and that being like the biggest component to mental health that he saw. Which, I think that's why Elevate is so successful, because it very much covers or handles or provides community for people who deep in addiction are used to being by themselves, now has a community to be a part of, and that includes the staff as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's that team that Elevate does in phase one. An old primary counselor put it together. Um, Maybe it was like, I don't know how many years ago, 7 years ago now, something like that. But it was a special TED talk, and it was on addiction, and it's like a very buzz worthy YouTube, video. It's everything you know about addiction is wrong, and that's the title, and it's got like
Mm.
millions of views. And the entire thing, and I've heard you say it before too, Angie, is that connection is the opposite, or like the antonym of addiction.
Yeah.
And there's like studies that it's rat park is like the study, or is the kind of the phrase used, where they put rats in a cage, and in the cage they give them like little fun little things to do. And there's like cocaine in like
Mm.
water, and then there's regular water.
That's a
And
fun little thing for them to do.
yeah,
When you said fun little thing to do, I'm thinking like, oh, toys. Oh, I didn't think you were
no,
going to
yeah,
say
no, I meant
cocaine.
fun little thing like toys, like little things that they play with, like little wheels that they spin on.
Yeah.
The cage that has just like cocaine and water and nothing else in it, obviously
Uh,
the rat's going to use lots of cocaine.
yeah.
And but the cage that has like friends and like little toys for it to play with, the rat doesn't go for the cocaine at all, or nearly as much. I'm not exactly sure the details on it, but it's like a very compelling example of yeah, like community purpose, like having connections to things in life, hobbies and interests and things like that. And so you could just imagine, yeah, the pandemic, especially if you're not like into your hobbies, your life revolves around like going to work, or like you get thrown out of your routine. If you don't have like a lot of discipline there, I really think a lot of people, yeah, fell, on alcohol as a solution or a way to get through the tough time. And, obviously it was kind of normalized too. And it was a scary time. So people like had that justification, I think, to like really uh, get drunk. Um, but yeah, I think Greg is right. There's one little detail that I think just in like the street drugs, right around that time and in a little bit before, were very unsafe too, in regards to just all the fentanyl
Yep.
and the drugs. And so like,
In
people weren't,
everything. In
yeah, in
everything. Even just
everything.
weed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, that's an interesting, yeah. What else, in regards to mental health did Greg talk about?
Well, his big thing, and he had another scientist there, and they definitely there was a lot of talk about alcohol and
Mm,
sugar like being like a big component to bad health, but also addiction, obviously, which I
hmm
could chime in about. But it was all about the sugar and how the body breaks down the sugar, and that's why alcohol is really bad. And so there was a lot of talk about just like the dangers of that as well. Um, and it was an interesting
Interesting.
viewpoint because obviously Greg invented CrossFit. I think a lot due to um, well, his understanding of the body and the mechanics, like we both did the L1 and it was phenomenal information about, and it made so much sense about the quick twitch and all the different things of why we love CrossFit. But the biggest part of CrossFit is community. And that's like something that, we impose on the clients. Like when they come into class, you can tell like the ones that they want to put in their headphones and kind of do their own thing. And I almost have to force them to start with the class, end with the class, be with the class. Like it's almost like you have to train them into community because people are so conditioned, even with exercise, to sort of just do their own thing without seeing the value of community.
hmm Yeah, the value there, and then there's also, I think there's a lot of there's quite a lot that we don't understand still, and I think I'm sure people are researching it, but like the exchange of chemicals, just from like I feel like I said this already in a recent episode, but the fact that yeah, when you're sitting there with another person talking about something that has meaning, there's a chemical reaction there, there's an exchange there that
Mm-hmm.
and well, that we talk about it, um or it's talked about in regards to oxytocin, so that treatment environment where you're having deep meaningful conversations, you're talking about stuff you have never talked about with others before, and there's that openness, that sharing of these feelings, and then so it raises uh that chemical oxytocin, which is another it's almost like the anecdote for a dopamine addiction. um and yeah, Simon Sinek talked about that in that famous talk that we show at Elevate, why leaders eat last,
Mm-hmm.
mainly for that point, to drive that point home as, like being a part of community is important, and having like a home group in recovery, having a tight group of friends that you can connect with, where that type group, that community of sober friends helps you feel connected, not feel like you're not doing this thing alone,
Mm-hmm.
and that combats that dopamine addiction.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this last week. Well, I guess it was 2 weeks ago when I went to graduation and staff meeting. And I was realizing how much we've sort of built into the program and not specifically for these reasons, but it really fulfills these reasons. Like when you go to graduation, everybody's clapping and applauding and standing up for every phase of the program. The person speaks,
Mhm.
they get clapped again. The person graduates, they get clapped, they get standing ovation. And then, like, if you roll straight from that into our staff meeting, we talk about core values. So everybody's shouting out each other. They're like, verbally recognizing each other for displaying core values, which is, hardworking and fun, general compassion for others, purpose driven, like what our
Mhm.
core values are. But people are recognizing that in each other. And so this almost consistent validation and acknowledgement, because when you give someone a compliment, not only do they get that feel good chemical, but you get that from giving that to them as well. So it's almost like we've just built in all these ways to sort of validate, recognize, compliment one another, which makes us feel good about ourselves. And so it's really a very feel good sort of environment that we've created both with staff and clients. And that sort of, I think, is why we have such a positive environment, like positive psychology, they call that, because of the constant sort of recognition, validation, and feel good stuff that we're creating with ourselves and each other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's serotonin, the sense of pride, when you accomplish something. Um, yeah, and then their primary counselor, the person that worked with them through that part of the program also gets that, they get that sense of pride. Yeah, I mean, the program that we have, yeah, is brilliantly set up in a way to get you back in touch with those natural feel good chemicals that a lot, there's some that you can't get by yourself, where and I'm referencing the talk with Simon Sinek again, just to give him credit, because I've seen it many times because I've shown it to the clients because I think it's great. But yeah, there's two chemicals that are selfish chemicals, endorphins and dopamine. You don't need anyone else to get those. And then there's the other two like main feel good chemicals, serotonin and oxytocin, which you do need people for. And our program is set, it really reminds you of that. I mean, you may not even know that it's going on, but we all always hear like, gosh, I don't even have a craving, like I haven't craved alcohol since I've been here. And
Yeah.
then it's like, why do you think that is? And it's not even that. I mean, they're sharing a room a lot of the time, so there's a lot
Hmm.
of interaction. They're having meals with,
Hmm.
with other people, and it's a tight community. And yeah, sure, people find a way to not get super involved, but most people in one way, shape, or form, they allow themselves to be connected with other people going through that experience, and
Yeah.
and we make it pretty hard to not uh to help people see that. And we make it hard for you to isolate, I should say. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
necessarily, it's usually a red flag, like something's going on, that, or maybe there's something that's not being shared, that they're holding on to, they're embarrassed to speak about, and so yeah. And people that do have a hard time kind of merging with the group, that's usually a sign, and it's a telltale sign that we need to be doing something more as staff to help merge that, make that connection, or help integrate them with the greater group, because that's always so successful when people can make those connections in recovery, those healthy connections to each other. They often do much better, you know.
yeah. Well, and I think another part of it, and you touched on this in the beginning, is the consistent accomplishing or completing things. So as we know,
Yeah.
like this is partly why 75 Hard is really successful, because you do something, you mark it off, you do something, you mark it off. You get those little hits of oxytocin over and over again, like, oh, I completed that. And so like, I think, with our clients, you have your chores, you have, you went to class, you did this, you're like constantly doing things, which I think people, again, deep in addiction, they're not only taking care of themselves, they're doing less and less in life. So they feel worse and worse about themselves because their productivity is so low. And
Right.
so we built in all these things throughout the day that they have to be accountable for and keep moving forward for. And now you got to go to lunch. Now you do this. And though it seems like, oh, all these rules, but it's good because they're like small little achievements that continue to make them feel good as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those little hits of dopamine. Yeah,
Yeah.
the checklist that we
Yep.
have
Yep.
for their curriculum.
Yep.
They're always checking stuff off,
Yep.
moving forward.
The whole way through. Check it off. Done, done, done. Assignment done. Yep.
They can see the end of it, and they see where they are, and it's very linear
Yeah.
for for most people, it's very, very linear, and that feels good. It also, yeah, it gives them a sense of like responsibility for, their progress. And yeah, I think that definitely works really well. You're right. And they have a pretty structured schedule.
Yeah.
And so every time they accomplish something, and a lot of the things they have to do with each other, like chores, sometimes there's
Hmm.
chores that are not just done alone, they're done with other people. And I think that, builds obviously good teamwork, communication, and obviously adds to the community, and which will, translate to, comfortability, maybe speaking in group. You're doing activities outside of like therapy sessions, um just like simple things like chores, and clients are exercising together, so there's like a really um tight group that really helps uh with that. And yeah, that's a good point, Angie, the dopamine and from
Yeah.
the structure.
Yeah. And then throw in the Friday volleyball at both centers. You're in the sunshine, you're working together, you're on teams, you guys are having
Mhm.
fun. A lot of times clients haven't had fun like that in forever. And even if you're just watching them play, you just feel good about that because it's activity, it's vitamin D, it's all the things, which is awesome. So I love it when the weather's good. I think also a really like maybe one of the biggest things or a big part of it is the lack of electronics and social media.
Hmm.
Because in the we call it the real world. In the real world, everybody has their phones, they're scrolling through social media, they're looking at their cat videos, they're getting their little hits from social. How many likes did I get? How many did I not get? That sort of thing. Did someone text me? Did they not text me? And so by us taking away their phones and their electronics and not like taking them away forever, but they're not allowed to have them, then they're sort of forced into communicating with each other because they don't have that escape in the phone. So
Mhm.
I think the electronic detox is a huge part of our successful action as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's talked about enough in the clients. They don't talk about it much. They're not like, oh, I miss my phone.
No, they don't. It's
They
shocking.
don't.
I
Yeah.
mean, at
And
first they do because you're like tied to
it's,
that thing, like it's your best friend. So at first it's kind of like, oh, it's a little jolting, but then they get used to it and it's almost a relief.
yeah, I think it is. I think it is. And yeah, the scrolling, the phone is, that it's all designed to keep you on it as long as possible, you know.
Hmm.
And it's like when you're scrolling on Instagram, it's like you're looking for something that you don't know you're looking for, and you have like this sense of like you're like you're finding something,
Hmm. Hmm.
but then it's just like over, and you just like keep looking. It's like such a weird feeling, just like scrolling on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, especially when it
Very
like
interesting.
recognizes your algorithm and then it
Yeah.
starts serving you up all the videos that are biased towards what you like. So then you're like, oh, look, more cat videos, which I love, more animal videos. I could just sit and watch all these like stupid animal videos. They make me feel good. They're not super serious, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm getting that exact thing that other people might get from political stuff or cars
Mhm.
or whatever it is. It's like so geniusly
Yeah.
set up to give you exactly what you're looking for, all in the
Right.
name of, like you said, to stay trapped in the phone.
Yep. Just to give you an ad, a couple cat dog videos later, they hit you with an ad,
Yeah.
you know, and
But that's the
that's
that's
what
the
it's all
creepiest
designed
thing
for.
though, is when you talk about something and then all of a sudden you're getting served up ads for that exact thing you were just talking about. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean um it's just kind of the way it is, I guess. Now, I mean, I remember when it first started happening, we were all, I felt that it was very creepy,
Yeah.
because it wasn't like fully outed as like this is what we're doing with your information. And now I think it's pretty well known that, yeah, you give access to all of these things, and a lot of us a lot of us just allow it, right? Because we're like, I guess, I mean, I don't have
Yeah.
any, some people are like, I don't have anything to hide. And then just, the mic's on and yeah, it's listening to sell you something.
Right. Yeah. You have nothing to hide, but that doesn't mean it's not serving you up what you want. And you're like, oh, I should spend that $20 on that cat toy because
Right.
my cat
Yeah.
would love that. Or whatever it is, workout equipment, or, oh, that's exactly what I was just talking about. So weird. Look at this cool ad for it. So it's
Mhm.
all in the name of satiating something, but then it's just forwarding that whole consumerism and giving you those hits of dopamine and all that so that you buy the products and you feel good for like 2 seconds and then you're moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. It's weird times. Weird times.
Super
Yeah.
weird times.
Yeah. Just like that whole, the fact that you're probably going to get, and me too, I'm probably going to get tons of cat and dog videos after this podcast, and it's
Well, you don't even like cats and dogs, so I would be shocked if you got them. Actually, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it's
it's not that I don't like cats and dogs, it's that I'm allergic to
highly
cats
allergic,
and dogs, which
highly
makes
allergic.
it hard for me to like really enjoy them as things because I think they're great. But um
Well, you used to enjoy driving in my car with all my dog fur. Like you loved that.
yeah, I loved it. Love feeling like, like when you have like a cold coming on and you're like,
Yeah.
man, and you like feel cruddy and it feels like it's just going to get worse. It's just that feeling the entire time. So yeah, I gotta
You
love,
loved it.
yeah,
You
love
miss
that.
it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's interesting though to think about our clients, and me working and just not hearing like I miss my phone as much as I feel like we should. And maybe it's just denial too, like denial of the fact that, a lot of people are just so addicted to their phone. I wonder how many times, um, it's like misdiagnosed with the client, like they're feeling very anxious, they're feeling, like they're uncomfortable in their skin, and it's the first couple of weeks,
Hmm.
and they misassign that feeling with something else going on, like, oh, I'm just homesick, but really it's like this just void from that the phone and just
Hmm.
the scrolling has just been fulfilling. I mean, I'm guilty of this, and we all, I think a lot of us are these days. You walk into a room full of people, and maybe like the conversation doesn't like spark off really quick, and it feels kind of like a little like rigid. The ice hasn't broken. Everyone's like
Hmm.
maybe feeling a little awkward or something. And what do people do, to get through the awkwardness? They pull out their phone and maybe they are looking at something. I don't know. Maybe it's nothing, but it's just like this mechanism like, okay, this is kind of uncomfortable right now. Let me pull out my phone and take a look at, yep, nothing's going on. All right.
Yeah.
And, it's just like this thing that so many of us do.
Yeah.
Um, and and it helps us like get through some of those uncomfortable moments, and so like you think a client who really relies on that, they go to treatment and they're with all these people that they don't know, and they're sitting there and they have that uncomfortable moment and they don't have that that coping
That
mechanism
quick fix.
there. Yeah, that quick, just like, let me just get out of this uncomfortable feeling for a second and just pass the time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about. I mean, it's probably yeah, there's probably something more to look at there in regards to um yeah, helping particular clients get through those early stages and where they may be going through like an extreme dopamine detox. They're detoxing from, who knows, alcohol, cocaine, and their phone and candy or something.
Right.
It's,
Right.
it's like this giant deficit, and they're just feeling terrible. And then your mind will start looking for an excuse to get out of this terrible feeling. And so they start coming up with reasons why they should go home.
Yeah. Or
Right.
they need tech time.
Or yeah, or
I've
they
got to
need
check on the bills. I need my tech time.
right. Yeah. 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 For sure. But yeah, mental health and phones. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
uh it's pretty wild in regards to just yeah, just Instagram and scrolling and ads and just where it all is now and how bad it's like how bad is it for us? We know it's bad, you know.
Yeah.
We know it's not good because it's just hitting that reward system too hard.
Yeah.
So then you have these, what comes up must come down,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting as you're talking about, I was thinking about like when and I really dislike hotel gyms, but sometimes when you're traveling, it's what you do. But I was thinking about how like all the treadmills, you're in there trying to exercise, but that now they all have TVs. So it's like, where you could be getting those and you do get those feel good hormones from like running and getting your endorphins up and everything. But then you're just sitting there watching a TV at the same time. It's almost like acting like the good you're doing by sucking you into not being in the present. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I haven't put much thought into that, but I have a hard time like I mean I can't say that I haven't done some workouts, like I guess lower intensity stuff. It's nice to have a distraction, especially if you're like, all right, I'm gonna run for an hour.
Hmm.
And I know I can't run super hard, so it'll be nice to have like something to help me get through this.
Yeah, but are you talking like music or like watching TV?
Well, I was picturing like the treadmill
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so like yeah, if it was like low intensity, then I could see it maybe help keep your focus for like a long period of time. Like, cause like,
Because it gets boring.
yeah,
Treadmills are boring. That
it's
is why I
boring.
struggle with them. Yeah.
Yeah, but like for the type of exercise, like CrossFit style stuff, it's like it's very high intensity and you need to be focused. There's no way you're going to be able to watch like something while you're, doing a CrossFit workout, you know?
Yeah. And thank God. I mean, and that was like the thing that I think I love the most about one of the things I love most about CrossFit is, which, dovetails into our program as well, is you have to be completely mindful when you're in there. You have to be in the present
Mhm.
because there's weights dropping, there's clock going, there's coach yelling, there's other clients, or people in the class with you working out and doing their things. You're trying to focus on the lift or the this or the that, but there's so much that it forces you to be 100% present in all moments, or else you're going to get hurt or something's going to happen. And I remember the first CrossFit, like the first year I did that, it was such a reprieve for me to be in a class where I didn't have my phone and I wasn't thinking about work. It was like I was just fully present. And I was like, wow, how good does that feel to not have to worry about any of that stuff for an hour and just be fully in the moment? And that was like one of the very first things I loved about CrossFit is it forces that being in the present for sure.
Yeah,
Which
for
again,
sure.
if you're listening to your own things, you're running on a treadmill, how much you in the present? I don't know. You're escaping. Let me watch a video so I don't have to, be here with people and do things.
Yeah. And if you're watching something, you're not like truly present, your mind is focused on that little video, which is often, hitting some sort of reward system, like imagination or yeah, you're like wrapped up in the story, you're feeling whatever it is, if it's like a TV show or something like that. You're
Yeah.
feeling those things, you're not necessarily feeling the workout, But
Yeah.
yeah,
You're just,
yeah, no, that's yeah, being present in CrossFit, super super underrated
yeah.
benefit of that kind of type of community style workout. And also, we've talked about it before, but just the no mirrors, like really
Mm,
also even adds to that more. It really puts your attention, not necessarily like on yourself, because like looking at yourself kind of brings your focus inward and you have those judgments about the way you look and you have all, that whole thing can start to like uh, put you in a mindset, that could be toxic, like mirrors for
Hmm.
people, especially in like an exercise environment, can be counterproductive, especially if you're just getting into it and just distracting, you don't focus on, performing, you focus on like just a different aspect, like aesthetics, like, oh, how do I look? How do I look when I do this? Which is good. And you want to move right, but you don't want to necessarily be like focused on the results as far as like body composition, image things go, like in that moment. Like none of those things are going to matter. And, you're not going to receive the body composition benefits until like a few days later after your body is like you've broken the muscles down and then uh you know ate a couple meals, slept, your muscles restored, and hopefully they're growing and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CrossFit definitely taught me because I used to never leave my house without makeup on, even if I was just taking my kids to school. Like I did not leave the house without makeup. Like I had such a weird thing about that. And it's
Hmm.
interesting because with CrossFit, when I started, it was like 5 a.m. and I'm not going to put on makeup for 5 a.m. But I
Hmm.
was like, oh, but my staff are going to see me, without makeup. And but then there being no mirrors, it allowed me to just be fully present and not be distracted with how I look or what I look like when I'm lifting or, watching other people look at themselves in the mirror. So it really taught me to sort of like, I think, learn and appreciate my body and become less concerned about the looks. And like you just said, more concerned about movement and doing things correctly and lifting heavy and not so much about the aesthetic part. The aesthetics follow with consistency. Like you'll get there aesthetically, but it's
Hmm.
not the primary goal for people. So I think they're always surprised. Like when I'm in class and I'm like, oh, you want to do a thruster, like let's look at that. It's all abs. This is how you're going to get your abs. Whereas if you're like in other places, they're going to have you do other things. But it really is about performance, and then the body follows, which is awesome. And it taught me how to sort of just love my body and not just like be concerned with like the superficial, cover it up, more just like just be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just move and try to move well, try to
Yeah.
feel your body through the positions. Yeah, there's got so many cool things about just how CrossFit kind of puts a spin on just your normal exercise. And there's so many things that are overlooked, I think, by a lot of people. Um, they may not like the environment maybe is very, nerve-wracking to step into something like that. But
Yes, it's
uh,
intimidating to a lot of people.
once you give it a chance, you start to see some of those things, and yeah, it's such a beautiful thing, and and transformative, just obviously physically, mentally, but just transforms just the way you think about exercise in general. Like I remember this kind of my it's something I always try to explain to people, but I feel like it falls short because it's one of those like you'll know once you experience it, but just like shifting your focus from like my focus from like bodybuilding, looking good, having big muscles to just performing. Like, or okay, like I want all those things, but now like sure, like now I'm just gonna focus on like performing my best, like getting good at being faster and stronger and all those things. And then the physical changes really can take place, in my opinion. But
It's also nice because it's not predictable. For me, that was the big thing because once something becomes predictable and redundant, I lose
yeah.
completely all interest in it. And
Mm.
so I think again, just the keeping you in the moment is the constantly varied. Like you don't know what you're going to do. For me, I am the worst at coming up with workouts like leg
Mhm.
day, arm day, I don't know, back day. I don't even know what those muscles are, nor do I care. It's just nice that somebody else is sort of doing that thought for you, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because like with CrossFit you sort of use everything all the time. And again, it just sort of helps you stay in the moment without thinking with, okay, well, I got to get my arms in today, so I'm just going to be doing lots of curls and things like this. It's like again, the body composition isn't the primary goal. So it's just overall strength. So you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff too, which is a huge relief, at least for me. I think for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely, because that same kind of routine that um, other exercise programs offer can definitely get redundant and boring. And routine is the enemy, they say.
Mhm.
And yeah, having that constantly varied aspect of it keeps you engaged, keeps you interested, keeps keeps you not knowing, like, I don't really know how this is gonna feel, which gives it almost like a it's almost like it's like a kind of like the carrot at the end of the stick. Okay, well, like, let's see how it feels then, like, or you're curious, you're like, I wonder how I'll do with this
Yeah.
set of things, because it's always changing. It's like,
Yeah.
how do I think I can do in this workout? Am I going to be able to run as hard as I think I'll be able to run? Or maybe, you just start to learn your body, learn yourself, and then, and it's always, yeah, always changing. Yeah, that's a good point, Angie. Have you
Awesome.
done any good workouts lately? Anything
Good.
anything in the last week, or like, I mean, like
Well,
anything
yesterday we did
anything cool
thrusters and wall walks, and I felt really good that I was able to get my chest to the wall and my face to the wall.
for the wall
It
walk? Cool.
with the wall walks, I've realized since I've lost weight that a lot of those things that used to be a lot more challenging, like body weight stuff,
Yeah.
is a lot easier for me than it used to be. And the good news for me is that, I learned how to do them when I was heavier. So I haven't lost a lot of strength, but having that same strength, but a lot less body weight to move makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So you're feeling good about your performance then, right? Because
Feeling
you're
pretty
like,
good
wow,
about it.
like
I can
wall walks are
RX a lot
easy.
of things, which always makes me feel good. So and I like that I don't have to go every day. I could go in 3 times a week. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I do it once. Sometimes, it's more, but I've sort of reached this really cool sort of homeostasis state of um just being able to be, which is really, really cool for me. That it takes out a lot of like guilt and stress. Like in the beginning, I would always have so much guilt and stress and pressure. Like if I don't go 3 days, I'm going to lose my gains. I'm going to, get unfit. I'm going to put on the weight. Like it was a lot of years of me having to sort of retrain my brain that, and to give myself grace that, maybe you just need a rest day today, and that's okay. You're not going to lose all your gains over giving yourself a rest day. So personally, I feel like I'm in a really good place because I can do RX on a lot of things. I certainly can't lift as heavy as I used to, but I'm also like, do I care? Does it matter so much at my age that I'm putting that much pressure on my body? I mean, it feels good when you can lift heavy weight, but other than that, like at long-term longevity, yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place.
Yeah. How much weight do you think you lost in the last couple years? As far as like,
Probably 30 pounds.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the smallest I've
Wow.
been since like before kids, and but now I have muscle. So
Yeah.
it's probably even smaller, which is interesting and cool and fun. Like it's just like, wow, how cool. Who'd have thought that I'd be in the best shape of my life at 52 years old? Like it's crazy.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, like back when you had that 30 pounds, do you feel like it took a lot of your attention during the day, where you were like thinking about it, or like wasting a lot of energy just being like, you know, about your weight?
I don't know that I thought a lot about it. I think I was probably embarrassed about it, but I also thought this is as good as it gets. Like this is just a
Mm.
CrossFitter body or somebody my age's body, or I think there was almost just an element of settling. But it's interesting when I look back through pictures, I can tell
Mhm.
like if I was going through some shit in my life based off at my picture at that moment in time, because you could just see like the unhealthiness. And then there was times where I had a little more weight, but I was actually healthy and things were good, and I could see that as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
there
yeah.
was an interesting video that this YouTuber that I really like, um, he did this video of gosh, I forget the name of the show, but anyways, it had like like a row of really fit guys, and then I had a row of overweight guys, and they were basically, the overweight guys were comfortable with where they were at, and the fit guys obviously thought that the way they were doing things was the best. And so it made me just kind of think about mental health and like having that extra weight, how it
Mhm.
affected you and where you are now. It's like, um, yeah, I remember before I really started taking care of or I don't want to say taking care of, but before I started paying close attention to my diet, I think there was just a general feeling of just, yeah, kind of feeling crappy and cruddy,
Mhm.
and then like losing a lot of that unhealthy weight has improved my mental health. Like I feel like my thoughts are often more positive. And I'm not, it's completely anecdotal, but to me, it feels like it's been a big positive. Just like, maybe it's the food, maybe it's the fact that I don't have that weight. Um,
Mhm.
but definitely an interesting subject.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
some people that are overweight, if they're, how if it makes them really unhappy, or if uh and how that plays into each other. But I don't really know where
Absolutely.
I don't really
Well, I
know
think our
how much further to go with that subject,
All
but
right. Well, I
I
think our
gotta mention
bodies
it.
are definitely a telltale sign of what's going on with our mental health. At least, like I said, when I look at pictures, I can tell when I was going through something really bad mentally by how my body and just overall appearance. I mean, I don't think it's all weight, just the overall appearance. Like I could see it in my face or
Mm,
in my body or how I'm carrying myself. Like I can tell, holy shit, you were going through something during that period of time. And
mm,
then when your mental health is in a better condition, your body's in a better condition, you can see the difference physically just through pictures and things like that. So I definitely think our bodies reflect what's going on mentally, outwardly, for sure.
yeah, yeah, no, that's a good point.
So one thing I think is a really, for me, has been a big thing for my mental health, and at first I had to remind myself about it all the time because it wasn't, not that it wasn't natural, but it's something. Remember, we had Marcus on, who is my mentor, and he had overcome some massive adversity with being paralyzed and then willing himself back to living and then martial arts and all these things. But his big thing, and what I've seen, one of the biggest things you can do for your mental health is gratitude.
Yeah.
And not like the bullshit gratitude, like, oh, I'm so glad I have that TV right there. And I'm so glad I have a phone. It's more like, holy
Mhm.
crap, that was really shitty that I just went through, but thank God I did because of this thing. Or like I was telling April today, I'm going through some stuff with the business and whatnot. And it's like it sucks. But then I reflect on this weekend and I got a call, our friend, and I was telling you this, Rob Hanley, from editor in chief of Recovery Today, unexpected brain tumor and died. And it's like, reframing what I'm going through is like, I get to do this because I could be, dying and putting my family through that
Mhm.
loss or losing my own life, like all those other things. So it's almost like just reframing whatever's happening to a gratitude type of situation, I think can change so much with whatever's happening, because being a victim doesn't fix anything. But if you could be grateful for the things and truly grateful, not just bullshit grateful for the things because it's making you stronger, it's making you better, it's making you think, and pivot and having to come up with ideas. Whatever good you could take out of it, I think is huge for mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. The power of gratitude. Yeah, I think it's a practice like mindfulness,
Hmm.
where you're talking about not that bullshit gratitude, like really grateful, you know. And I think for me at least, I think there's like a right setting and time to like really experience that,
Yeah.
like that truly grateful. Which like, putting myself, sunsets make me grateful. Like
Yeah.
that like during those moments of like some like environmental like type awe is like really easy for me to tap into, like what you were saying, like, yeah, like truly grateful. Whereas that other the bullshit gratitude, like for me, like making a list, like a gratitude list for me is like almost, I mean, sure, it works for some people, but every time I've done it, it's felt like bullshit grateful.
Yeah.
It felt like I was something I was forced to do. But those moments where I can just sit and, be, put yourself in a place where you can really like embrace those feelings. I think that is, yeah, like true gratitude. And yeah, there was Tots, a colleague of ours. I think he posted something about how gratitude releases serotonin, which makes
Right.
sense because practicing gratitude, serotonin's like the pride chemical, like that feeling, that sense of pride. And
Mhm.
so like, yeah, truly embodying gratitude could maybe help you feel prideful for your life, which that's pretty cool, to think about. Even though earlier I said it was a chemical you needed other people to experience, but I guess in this case, that's not true if you have like a good gratitude practice. But I wouldn't say, I'd say like for me, and I'm not going out of my way to practice gratitude, but I know when I can lean into it and feel
Mhm.
that genuine gratitude. So when I do have a sense of like feeling grateful, like it's arising, I feel like I lean into that more because through the work that we do, I know how transformative it can be on just your overall mental health and well-being, and your relationships. I think that's really big.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I could be having the hardest week ever dealing with all kinds of stuff. And I'll go to a graduation and I'll see the graduates and the wins they're getting. I'll see their gratitude for having a second chance on life. I'll see them thanking our staff and giving our staff gratitude, which makes me happy because it's a hard job. And so it's like it could be, and I'm sure that's why I'm still doing this 30 years later. It's kind of self-serving to the degree of it could be super hard, but then when you realize like the work you're doing, the stuff that is making a difference, changing lives, seeing other people's gratitude does nothing but give me the ultimate in gratitude for, being blessed with a purpose where we get to see that. We get to see those wins. We get to see and experience like such dramatic changes for people. And then to see, and again, with, addicts and alcoholics, they're not coming in as the most grateful people. A lot of them are pissed and resentful and victims and, they're not there because they want to be. And to see that beautiful transformation to this person who's truly grateful for having a second chance on life and seeing their families truly grateful for getting that person back that they used to know 20 years ago and they thought were gone. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, that's a big thing we get to experience, a big perk of, and just the way that we have things set up, elevate. Not every treatment center has like I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of ceremony of some type, but we actually make it it feels like it means something, we set it up in a way, and there's like an MC, we have um, you know, the way we have it set up, it really is the breeding ground for all those good feelings for the clients and us, it's
Right.
really and us. And I can only imagine for you having to deal with a lot of just the stuff that nobody wants to deal with, for treatment. And then,
Yeah.
you're not working, with the clients outside of exercise, on their program. And you're dealing with just a lot of the treatment noise with insurance and just the stuff that's not fun. And it's always cool to hear, how much graduation means to you. And
Yeah.
I think that's super special thing that we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Who
like it
knew?
too. I like it too. I think it's I mean, I've seen so many graduations, and I've hosted, been the MC for several years, and and it definitely, uh the clients that really have a hard time,
Mm-hmm.
watching them graduate, it's always like so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing them come out the other side and like feel accomplished, when they maybe
Yeah.
were kicking and screaming a lot of the way,
Yeah.
struggling, not wanting to do all the work that they needed to do on themselves and for their program. Um, I I really cherish those moments. I mean, yeah, there's been, you know, uh, a couple graduations just brought me straight to like tears of joy, tears of just, yeah, pride, just that, just so many awesome feelings, you
Yeah.
know.
So I'm curious about something. So you were on the front lines as one of the primary care counselors, which are the people that work directly with the clients throughout their program.
Mhm.
As that individual, there is a ton of recognition and validation that you get from the clients at graduations and throughout the program. Like those are the people that are acknowledged probably more than anybody because they're instrumental in getting the clients through their program. So you get used to that week after week, and especially when, like you said, you used to MC the graduation. So you were always like, oh, and of course, Tom over here, thank you, Tom, for this and that. And not that it's not warranted, but when you get away from a position like that and go like you did remote because you had to move and you're not in that consistent validation, those constant feel good hormones, that constant like recognition for all your hard work, even though, we don't do it for that. Is there like a huge drop off that you experience where you used to like almost addicted to this constant like, and I don't want to say feeding your ego, but a constant validation, and I guess that's what oxytocin, or where people are making you feel good that you don't get anymore, where it's almost like something's missing.
Yeah, no, it's a drug for sure, right? It's a drug your brain produces. And I phased out of that role before I moved, and started working remotely, meaning I phased out of the primary counselor role, and I was, the boss of the primary counselors. So I had a good period of time where I wasn't getting acknowledged for anything anymore. And yeah, it was, and so I was attending graduation, and there was many graduations where I wasn't thanked for anything ever. And yeah, I mean, it feels good to be publicly recognized. There's no denying that. So I
Yeah.
would be lying if I said, yeah, no, it's nice to have public recognition. It feels good. It's nice to be a part of those moments, but I feel like I did my, uh, I did my time in those positions where I had that recognition. And I think it was really good for me in early recovery.
Yeah.
It helped me start to build some self-worth again, some self-confidence again,
Yeah.
and helped me grow into the person that I am today. So yeah, I remember lots of graduations where you'd hear a particular staff member get like tons of shout outs,
Hmm.
and you have that sense of like, oh, but I helped you too. Maybe they didn't mention you or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. They're
kind of
like
funny.
looking
It's
over the
like
whole
it
room and they
seems
just look
so,
right past you.
yeah, it seems, but like that whole thing seems very immature to like think like that. And so I caught myself being like, but it's fine, I did that job, for a long time.
Yeah.
I had, my thank yous, and I saved the people that I saved. And now I'm in a different role.
Yeah.
So I guess yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it was really nice starting off having those that recognition early in recovery. And maybe it helped. Maybe it helped amount to, long-term sobriety, and that recognition. And
Absolutely.
they talk about that, even in 12 steps, the fact that, and once again, I'm referencing the Simon Sinek talk. They talk
Hmm.
about in 12 steps, the reason why the 12th step, if you can master all the other steps, but if you don't master the last one, you will relapse. And the last one is, getting another addict through it, taking another addict through the steps. Right. And so, um, although we're not a 12-step program, but me coming on staff and taking clients through the program, that was my 12th step, and I did it. And in a sense, I'm still doing it. There's just not the same forum for like public recognition like there used to be. So
Yeah. Yeah, because it just seems to me like, say you're a PMC and you have a graduation every week and you're being like validated and acknowledged every single week for like a couple of years, and then all of a sudden you're not getting that. There's got to be some like drop off in the hormones that you're used to getting that you're no longer getting, that could almost lead to, if you didn't have a very solid foundation or group or sense of community, I would imagine it can almost make you feel depressed. Like, you're so used to receiving it and then not getting it. It's got to have some effect on your mental health, for some individuals, I would think.
yeah, yeah, maybe it did. Maybe it did more than yeah, maybe it brought me down a little bit.
Yeah, but then you have kids and they're grateful for all the little things, so it can make up for that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about bringing that up as like uh, a nice segue into, um, yeah, getting that acknowledgement, that praise, that stuff from being a father. But also it reminded me of like all the graduations that I attended where I didn't get any acknowledgement. So I kind of went there with my
Yeah.
response because yeah, I do remember that period of time for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's just hard because you're used to getting it. It's like anything. You're used to getting it all the time, and now all of a sudden you're not getting it, and your body and your response is going, "Wait, where's that feel good stuff?" Like, I'm supposed to be feeling something good here, and I'm kind of not getting that anymore. And so I always wondered if there's a drop off for people who, especially in that particular position, did that for so long to not be receiving that same sort of uh, acknowledgement, validation, admiration, all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would know better than any of us. You probably have seen other staff go through
Yeah.
that kind of evolution, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'll admit it. Yeah, I definitely did feel a little, it was tough. It was in a way, to not be a part of everyone's program closely. Um, I'm sure you've seen it with others though too, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we all get it. I mean, and that's why, I force staff meeting and things like that so that, people can get recognized by their peers and one another for the hard work they do, for a lot of the positions that aren't on the front lines like that, but still work just as hard doing the other things, but they're sort of the behind the scenes kind of people. That's why I really like, our core value shout outs and that sort of thing so that they can then get that sort of appreciation in a different forum for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Now, core value shout outs
Staff of
are
the month.
staff of the month. Yeah, I think all those things kind of keep those things, it keeps that, um, yeah, recognition and,
Yep.
getting, having an opportunity to praise others for their hard work,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
it does a lot for you. I can think of times where, you know, it goes two ways though, too. If you don't get acknowledged, it can feel crappy too, where
Yeah.
I can think of times where I was like, as a staff member in my 30s, you know, thinking like, I wonder if, like, oh man, I had a really tough week, like working with Brian, whoever. And
Hmm.
you wonder, like, I wonder if anyone's going to notice that, or if anyone did notice that, and then they don't.
Yeah.
It's also going to have, like, I'm like, oh yeah, is Matt gonna, my boss, Matt, is he gonna shout me out for that? You know, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't,
Yep.
but it's just part of life. You gotta,
Yeah.
sometimes you get recognized for things and sometimes you don't. Of course, like the praise feels good, it's undeniably feels good, but you can't do it for that. you know
Right.
we
Yeah.
don't do it to be later acknowledged. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And uh that's your purpose, right? Just because somebody doesn't notice it, you can't let that get to you. But there's been a few times where you're sitting in that moment of, you know, core value shout outs at staff meeting. You're like, I wonder if anyone, nope, they didn't. And then you just move on, nope, they didn't notice, or I
Yeah.
didn't, funny.
Well, I will say it's also harder with you on remote because, like for me, I'm trying to be present with the people in the room that are like right next to you. And then I see you guys like on the screen peripherally. But definitely, I think, it makes a big difference whether you're physically there and not there. So I'm sure there's a lot less praise that happens since you've gone remote for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, it's kind of the evolution of
It is.
just being, as a staff member at Elevate and slowly working my way, from like on the ground, working with every client that came into the program. And you work your way up,
Yep.
to different positions. Now I'm on team one, and
Yep.
we even get acknowledged less. And then, if I ever made it to leadership, then you even get acknowledged less. So it's just like this slow evolution to being recognized less
It's
and
true.
less and less.
But
And
by then you've become so confident and self-sufficient, you don't need it as much as you did
yeah,
like in the
exactly.
in the beginning and in the early days.
Yeah, you get used to leading, or,
Yeah.
yeah, being
Yeah.
an executive, right?
Yeah.
It's just the evolution of it.
Yeah. Or you just learn to, validate yourself like how I do. You're a badass bitch. Then I just get it from myself.
Uh, po- Positive self-talk for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. April tells me to. She helps me out a lot. I actually get a lot of validation and acknowledgement. It's pretty awesome.
You do for sure. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to, yeah, just, to say what you see. You saw something, you felt like it was worthy of shouting out. It's a good reminder, for, just in this conversation for me, just to remind myself, just, yeah, how good that feels to, as like a new staff member, right?
Yeah.
So like taking that mental note during the week, when I do notice, even remote, when I do notice or see somebody go through, um, a particularly tough situation, maybe with the client, and where they,
Yep.
wrote something up, they gave it their best shot with the client, it didn't go well, and shouting them out for just trying, and just, having to sit there and hold space for, somebody who's just wasn't ready to take the
Mm.
next step in their program, something like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a good reminder, how powerful acknowledgement is, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, I am eternally grateful to you for coming on the show today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no,
And
awesome to be on here.
yeah, and we will continue our Mental Health Awareness Month conversation next week, where we will have some more ideas and tips and tricks for people to feel good about their own mental health, as well as caring for and about other people's as well.